Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I am talking about podcasts and video. And here is my supposition for the day. This is what I'm saying. Everyone who is making podcasts should stop making podcasts. Podcasts should be dead, and everyone should start shooting video. And the reason why, I've been thinking about this for a long time, and basically, here's my take on this, and here's why I'm saying this. So, I am a huge fan of podcasts, always have been. I still listen to them quite a bit, but I also am a huge fan of YouTube now, right? And being aware, being a consumer of content from podcasts and a consumer of content on YouTube, it is clear to me that making a podcast is a 100% waste of time. People should simply cut video, and here's why. So one, I have listened to podcasts for probably 10 years, and so I'm a podcast listener, and I'm also a podcast creator. So one of the podcasts I created very early on, I was involved with a group called Patio Books. And I took a novel that I wrote and I turned it into a pod novel, like essentially a novel turned into a podcast. My wife helped me with it, and 10 years ago, podcasts were brand new. Like, it was really exciting, and it was, podcasts were a huge thing then. And then also recently, so I've always been a big tabletop role-playing game fan. This is another reason why I'm, really big into podcasts, always have been. The tabletop role-playing game community is huge in the podcast area. There's podcasts for every type of tabletop role-playing game. I'm also a big movie fan. Podcasts have always been there for movie reviews, all kinds of content. I'm a huge political wonk. There's podcasts for that, So I have listened to many, literally thousands of hours of podcasts over the years. I've listened to novels. I've listened to tons and tons of tabletop role-playing game content, tons of political content, tons of movie reviews, tons of fiction, just all kinds of stuff through podcasts, right? Serial, I listened to Serial. Just really, really dug podcasts and really got into it, right? So here's why I'm saying that podcasts now in 2016 are an absolute waste of time. The reason why is YouTube, right? So I have recently, so probably for about 2-3 years now, I've been doing the same thing with YouTube that I've been doing with podcasts. I'm a consumer of YouTube content, and I'm a creator of YouTube content, right? And so the way I create content is I'm linked up with a group called nerdarchy.com, and I've always really been a huge fan of tabletop role-playing games. And when I play tabletop role-playing games, whether it's the Fate system or Shadowrun or Dungeons and Dragons or the Star Wars tabletop role-playing game, I've played all of these. Now, before 3 years ago, I'd just get together with my buddies, and we would sit around a table, and as friends, we would tell a story using a collaborative story using rules, mechanics, and randomness. That's what tabletop role-playing games are. And there was no recording devices. There was nothing recording audio, which you would need for a podcast, and there was nothing recording video, right? And we just played the game and we had fun. That's all done now, period. Now, if I roll dice, I roll camera. Done. Like, I do not play tabletop role-playing games anymore that are not recorded for an audience. And all of the games I play now are all going through nerdarchy.com. And the reason why is I said to myself, okay, I have fun with my buddies. This is fun, right? But if I could take the same amount of time and gather around my table and tell a story for 4 people and they all had a good time, great. But if I could do the same thing and 7,000 people will watch it online, over time, and it'll be there for posterity, and I can rewatch it, and, globally, people will watch that content, why wouldn't I do the second one? And I do, right? And it's so, and it actually even generates money for the Nerdarchy guys, right? So it's a much better setup in my opinion, right? So having seen firsthand what it takes to create video content and what it takes to create podcast content, I am 100% convinced that making a podcast in 2016 is a drop-dead waste of time. And the reason why is YouTube is amazing and far, far better technology than podcasts, which is really, in my opinion, in 2016. This was not the case 3 years ago, but in 2016, podcasts should be a dead medium, right? And the only people who are still making podcasts are just people who don't understand the technology aspects around this. So here's the issue. When you make a YouTube video, this is what happens. You have the video. You have the audio. You can pull, like, taking the audio out of a YouTube track is, it is a menial task that most teenagers know how to do, right? So you can get what you need for your podcast with literally, a 30-second app action, right? So when you create a video, you already have a podcast right there, right? It doesn't work the other way. If you create a podcast, you don't have a video, right? Goes even further. The technology on YouTube is so strong and so powerful and such a good value, right? Because it's free, right? Now, so is podcast, but here's the next one. When you do a video on YouTube, it runs a script. It runs a script on your video and takes everything you said in that video and creates a transcript. And the transcript is right on the bottom of your video. Maybe sometimes it takes a day or two to get there, but there's a transcript on the video that you ran, right? And that transcript is written copy, typed written copy, which is automatically generated by a computer, of everything you said. So if you make a YouTube video, you have a podcast and you have an article, right? So if you make a video, you have a podcast, and you have an article. If you make a podcast, you have a podcast. That's it. Like, you don't have a video, and you don't have automatically, with no extra work, you don't have a transcript, right? Additionally, from having seen these two groups together, now I am linked up with Nerdarchy. They are very hardworking guys. 4 dudes just working their butt off to make this YouTube channel work, right? They do a great job. They work hard, and they have 20,000 followers, and that's on 2 years of work. Two and a half, let's say 2.5 years of work. 2.5 years of work, 20,000 followers. I know another group, brilliant people, just as brilliant as the Nerdarchy guys, probably work a little harder than the Nerdarchy guys, if not the same. Their numbers are a fraction, and I'm talking a small fraction, of what Nerdarchy has. Their monetization is a joke. The Nerdarchy guys, they are, they know what they're doing. They're running this thing like a business, and they don't give a ton of money. Okay, let's be clear, right? But they have monetized their content, and they were aiming at that from day one, right? And YouTube has built a monetization track that is powerful, right? So it allows you to take 20,000 followers and turn that into a stream of revenue. The same work, right? You have to do all the same work for podcasts. You have to do the posting. You have to do the editing. You have to get your guests. You have to make time to create the content. All the same work is there for creating a podcast that there is for creating a video, right? But when you create a podcast, you don't have video, you don't have a transcript, you're going to make a fraction of the money, you're going to get a fraction of the followers and subscribers. It's just like now I will say this: video takes lighting and thought, and there's a little bit more to video. I would say that there is 25% more effort when you do a video than there is when you do a podcast, okay? But your return is factors of. You will generally get factors like 2, 3, 5, 10, 100 times the money that a podcast makes. 2, 3, 5, 10, 100 times the subscribers that a podcast will get. And podcasts, in my opinion, are, now I shouldn't say they're fading. There's still tons of great podcasts out there. But compared to the growth on YouTube, it is such a pittance. Like, it is just, the numbers are staggering, right? And so, so basically, just having seen both of these communities, being highly invested in both communities, I've been a long-time podcast lover, and I've been a heavy YouTube user for probably 3 to 5 years now. But I've been doing podcasts 2 or 3 times that amount of time. Right now, in year 2016, if you are doing a podcast, wrap that stuff up immediately. Actually, you don't have to even get a phone. Just start using, you don't even have to get a camera. Just start using your smartphone. And if you have a podcast, you clearly have a smartphone. But okay, just start using your smartphone, cut your same content, and put that stuff up on YouTube. The sooner you make the transition, the better. Because I am convinced that the only people who are doing podcasts now are people who just don't understand the numbers of these communities, the acceleration of what is happening in both communities. And overall, podcast is a medium that is dying quickly. And I really feel, podcasts, they are a strip out app section of video. And so with all the effort it takes to create a podcast, you are far better expending 25% more effort and getting factors back in money, attention, feedback, interaction, all of it. It doesn't make sense to make a podcast anymore. And that's my take. Take care, everybody.